Hello there. Welcome to another episode of The Pause. I'm your host, Laia Bove. This is an accessible and inclusive space created to invite you to take a moment and to learn to connect to your authentic and creative truth through practices like yoga, breath work, and meditation. Before we get started, I invite you to take a moment to center. Find a comfortable seat, lengthen your spine, relax your shoulders, and perhaps soften your gaze down or close your eyes. Take a deep inhalation through your nose, expanding front to back, side to side, and top to bottom. Open your mouth and let it go. Welcome to the pause. Completing this story. What I've learned from the readers of my first novel in presentations, book clubs, and conversations. Hello, dear one, and welcome to the pause. It's now been over a month since my first novel, Saber was released, and I couldn't be more grateful for the lovely reception it's having. Over these past weeks, I've had the chance to hold 3 presentations in Barcelona, Tarragona, and El Masnou, and last week, I was lucky enough to enjoy 2 spaces where readers had already fully immersed themselves in the story. The Women's Circle at Ona Llibres, led by the wonderful Yolanda Bataller, and my first book club at Libreria Bruna in Altafulla. On an unexpectedly cold evening, we gathered to talk about the characters, the themes, the wounds, and the returns within the book. They asked me questions, I asked them some too, and we shared a beautiful couple of hours of conversation, laughter, and reflection. And across these conversations, both in groups and in private, certain questions keep resurfacing. Questions that go far beyond literary curiosity. They touch on things we have all lived in one way or another. And perhaps that's why this stirs us so deeply. One of the first questions is simple, and at the same time, immense. What does saber mean? Saber, knowing how to return, can mean many things, depending on the moment of life we're in. Just as it does for the characters in the novel. Not only the 2 main ones, Jana and Paul, but everyone in the story. Returning is often much more than a physical move. It also means separations, grief, moments of change, layoffs, and renunciations. There are the big returns, and then there are the micro returns. Restarting a habit that once sustained us, leaving a relationship that hurts us, reclaiming space to breathe. What I've realized is that we all go through these moments. And more than once. We leave, we get a little lost, we find ourselves again, and we return. Knowing how to return is a lifelong process. Why 2 parallel stories? It's true that I could have told the story in a linear way from a single point of view, and it probably would have worked, but exploring what it means to know how to return through 2 very different lives felt much more interesting. When the novel begins, both Jana and Paul find themselves at a point where, consciously or not, they realize that the decisions they've been making have led them somewhere where they can't feel fully alive. That moment of clarity, that sensation of losing touch with one's own path, is deeply common. Through these 2 very different characters and through their relationships and the ways they choose to respond when things get complicated, I felt the novel could connect with many people and situations. In the end, these 2 perspectives helped me show that there are many ways to get lost and many ways to learn to move forward again. What themes do you explore in the novel? The novel focuses on issues that are very present in contemporary society in Catalonia and around the world. Housing, job insecurity, the social pressure to be and do everything, and the family dynamics that so often fracture us, silences, misunderstandings, difficult loyalties. The book also explores how we relate to the passing of time, to our past selves, to the things we thought we had left behind. It speaks of identities that crack and rebuild themselves. Sometimes you need to hit rock bottom to see the way forward more clearly. Why did you choose Barcelona as the setting? Barcelona is the city where I was born and raised, and like everything, it's constantly evolving. Probably at a faster pace than I wish, but it's the reality. It's a city I love deeply, and at the same time, it hurts to see what it's becoming. Yet, as a fiction writer, I have the freedom and the responsibility to go beyond the raw portrayal of the present, to explore nuance and contradiction, and to bring a bit of humor and light. It also felt important to represent the diversity I experience every day. A Barcelona rarely portrayed in contemporary fiction, or when it is, often included begrudgingly to tick a box. In that sense, yes, I write from experience. The city is real, complex, and plural, and I wanted that to be felt on the page. Even though they come from very different worlds, Jana and Paul both return to a Barcelona that is no longer the one they left. And it's within this changing landscape that they must confront what they've avoided, and above all, discover what it means to choose again. In many ways, Barcelona is another character in the story. How did you build the characters? As a reader, I'm drawn to characters who feel like real people, full of contradictions, ambitious and vulnerable at the same time, capable of surprising us. As a writer, I observe a lot. Coffee shops, buses, interrupted conversations, and gestures. I'm interested in how people speak, but also how they fall silent, how they move, what they reveal without meaning to. I like asking questions and noticing patterns in very diverse experiences, anxieties and concerns that appear again and again, regardless of where we come from or who we are. In a way, all the characters in the novel are built from this blend of observation, intuition, and everyday lived experiences. What was the writing process like? From the first idea to the final manuscript, almost 3 years passed. I began writing without a clear roadmap because I'm one of those writers who discover the story while creating it. This is very fun, but it also means rewriting a lot and going backwards more than once. The first draft even had chapters in English, and I rewrote the whole thing in Catalan, shifting from first person to third. That change helped me understand the characters and their stories more fully and allowed everything to breathe more naturally. My editor's suggestions were also key, especially in scenes that needed reshaping or chapters that didn't quite fit. Writing is a long process with many layers, and the collaborative work with editors and proofreaders is an essential part of the final result. What has surprised you most about readers so far? What has surprised and moved me most is how quickly readers have made the characters their own, that they see them as lifelong friends, that they find them recognizable and close. That has brought me so much joy. I'm aware that Jana's and Paul's life experiences may, at first glance, seem distant from many readers' lives, and yet they enter their worlds, connect with them, and use the novel to explore what knowing how to return means in their own lives. Some resonate with Jana and her relationship with Nathan. Others, heartbroken, see themselves reflected in the complexity of Paul's relationship with his father. Some connect with Adnan's optimistic spirit. Others recognize themselves in Eulalia's adventurous nature. For me, that's the mystery and magic of sharing a story. You never know how it will touch each person. Where stories truly breathe. In the end, these presentations and spaces of conversation confirm something I perhaps already sensed while writing, that a story is only truly complete when it reaches someone else's hands. Each reader sees themselves reflected differently and asks their own questions, some shared, some deeply personal. It's in this shared space between the book I wrote and the life each person projects onto it that the characters and the stories begin to truly breathe. If Saber Tournat speaks of leaving, losing oneself, and finding the way back, these days I've discovered it also speaks of something else, of how we recognize ourselves in each other's stories, of how, for a moment, we're accompanied by a voice that isn't ours, and yet it helps us see ourselves more clearly. Thank you to everyone who has read, shared, and talked with me. My heart is full. And if you'd like to continue the conversation, on November 27th at 7 p.m., I'll be giving a presentation at Casa Fahrenheit in Barcelona together with David Moragas and his Fervor, one of my favorite novels of the past year, also rooted in contemporary Barcelona. I would be delighted to see you there. And if you want to dive deeper, you will find a link to the full conversation from the presentation in El Masnou in the show notes. Until we meet again, pause often, breathe deeply, and be kind, especially to yourself. Much love, Laia.